Hello, I am Amy from moonmindology.com, and today I want to look at the chart of Volodymyr Zelenskyy. So we are all familiar with this man. He is the actor turned president of Ukraine. So if we look at his chart, the chart ruler goes to the 9th house. So this is going to make him very interested in philosophy, law, and travel. He may even be interested in publishing at some point in his life, if he hasn't already published a book of some sort. This is also a good sign that there is a good relationship with the father. And Venus is closely conjunct the sun, which can cause problems with health, but it can also cause problems with his wife and or his lovers. So with the sun, Venus shows that the father may be very creative, or he could just have a very good relationship with him, and he could have a very sweet relationship with his father. With the sun in the 9th, as the sun is the character for the father and the 9th house rules the father, sometimes when you get that double meaning, you put it together, it doesn't necessarily bode well for that area of life. So there could be a problem with the father being overbearing, and there could have been some problems with his father. Something very interesting about this chart is the sun is in a Parivartana yoga with Saturn. So they're in each other's houses of ownership. Both planets are strong with this combination. So Saturn is in the 4th house. It's retrograde. So sometimes that can create problems with authority figures, but it means that there can be a building of skills and setting boundaries. There's a problem with authority, which means people have to develop boundaries and become very good in this area with a retrograde Saturn. The personal challenge revolves around subservience to others as opposed to being an equal to others in relationships. So this is the karmic debt of a retrograde Saturn. As there is a malefic planet in the 4th house, this can show that there is a difficulty attaining happiness, but there can also be a problem with the mother, so a sadness of the mother, a separation from the mother, limitations of nurturing from the mother with a planet like Saturn in the 4th house of the mother. But Saturn, sitting in Leo, is opposed Aquarius, and aspecting this sign and that house, which is the 10th house, that makes that house good for what it's all about. So that's his career. And he has 100% excelled in his career, to the point that one minute he's an actor playing the part of a guy who accidentally lands up in a presidential position, to that actually happening in real life. So he has a very good career. The moon is in the 3rd house, and it's very happy in this sign. It's good for self-expression, it's good for traveling, and it's excellent for communication. He could have skills in singing, dancing, music, anything of this type. And also, because the moon is the mind, it's very good for his emotional capabilities. So the moon is in its own sign. So this is a positive thing for his mother, but it's conjunct a debilitated Mars. And the association with the moon here is good because the moon being in its own sign uplifts and gives Bhanga to Mars. But the malefic properties of Mars and the fact that it's right next to the moon, and it creates a Chandra Mangala yoga, which is often associated with great riches and great wealth, especially in the 3rd house. That is through your self-expression. And what did he make most of his money in? Acting and dance, entertainment, self-expression. However, this is a classic for the relationship with the mother suffering. And with the Saturn in the 4th and this combination, regardless of how strong the moon is, it's good for his mind, but it's not good for his mother. So with that Mars, he does need to watch out when Mars is activated, because that is going to activate that debilitation. So like the Karaka for the father, being in the house of the father, Mars is the Karaka for siblings, and it's in the house of siblings. So again, there can be problems with sibling relationships with this combination here. Because Mars is quite a fiery and hot planet, it can make him emotional. It can make him have emotional outbursts and also the desire to win. So with Mars, it can be associated when it's in poor dignity with aggression, violence, self-centeredness, and self-righteousness. There can be a problem with being quite argumentative, and especially, as I already said, with the moon, and the moon does represent women. It could be women in general that he does have a problem with having a lot of arguments with. Rahu is in Virgo. So this could be to do with politics as well, because the 5th and the 11th axes are all about politics. But the 5th house is also about children, and Pluto is also here, so there could be very, very powerful children. Rahu is about materialism, success. So, of course, there can be very successful and powerful children. But with Pluto, they can be overbearing. But also, because the 5th is the 3rd house from the 3rd house, which is self-expression, the 5th house is also about entertainment and self-expression. So there's great power in this section of the chart, because there's 2 very powerful points here and a lot of materialism. So a lot of his success, his power, and his material gains came from the entertainment industry. Because the 5th house is an element of intelligence as well, with Pluto and Rahu here expanding all of this all into one thing, there can be a tendency towards OCD-like behaviours and obsessive compulsive thoughts. Ketu is in the 11th house of friends and associates and great gains. So Ketu can be associated with the film industry and photography. And the 11th house can sometimes be large sums of money. This is another sign that large sums of money have been made through photography and film, which is where a lot of his money came from. There can also be links to gas and oil as well. So these things are associated with things that occurred to do with Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Of course, everything kicked off on the Ukrainian-Russian border in the Donbass regions, and it affects the rest of the world's oil and gas prices. Zelenskyy can also be very attracted to outcast kind of people as friends and groups of spiritual people, with this point being here. Uranus is in the 6th house, and this can sometimes be a little bit unstable for the everyday career, as well as relationships with colleagues, and also with people who serve you. So if he employs people, he could find that they have Uranus-like properties. So what is Uranus all about? It's all about sudden change, eccentric, it's electric. It can also do with inventions and computers. So these are aspects and things that we kind of have to look towards, because they could pop up in Zelenskyy's everyday kind of happenings whilst he is in power. And these are also things that can affect the Ukrainian people. The 6th house is also a Dastana house, and Uranus here can be sudden and unexpected accidents. In fact, I think he did have an accident not too long ago. I think it was a car accident or something like that. But he has to watch out for these type of things, because they are prone to happen, especially when they are associated with the work or with people who serve him, because these are the elements of what the 6th house is about. So due to the location of Uranus, it was activated recently in June 2022, and that did cause a big change in Zelenskyy's work, because that's when he suddenly went from not being very well known around the world to being a household name. Because despite the fact that the the conflict, special operation, or the war, whatever you want to call it, happened between Ukraine and Russia. That was in the February or March. And it took a bit of time before Zelenskyy started touring around and coming to other countries and becoming well known. But that was the real change. He will especially need to be careful in 2026 because he will be in the subdasha of Venus, and that is the owner of this house. So this can bring more Dastana issues to him and activate that Uranus. Now Neptune is in the 7th house, and this can create confusion and scandal within relationships, but there can also be deceptions within his business partners and also within contracts. So this is something that he needs to watch out for because he could get diddled. He could be in a situation where he cannot see clearly. But what business did he work in? Entertainment. Neptune is all about glamour and things that aren't real. So again, that goes into the element of film and photography. Now the 7th house is ruled by Mars, and Mars goes to the 3rd house. So that is an indicator that Zelenskyy could have met his wife in early education. Now I can't remember where he met her, but I'm pretty sure they went to the same music entertainment school, and I think that was where they met from when I looked at his biography. Because the 7th ruler is in the 3rd, travel can be very, very important to this relationship to keep it happy and together, as well as self-expression. And they're both involved in the entertainment and music industry. I think she was a DJ of some side, or some sort, or a radio host. But as the 7th ruler is aspected both by the moon and Ketu, this can give a lot of turbulence. So the Ketu can create some loss there, and it is a possibility for divorce. And the moon, wherever it goes, it can give a bit of instability. Like water, it moves up and down and it never sits still. So that is what makes it unstable. It's not a solid base on which you can bring to a house within your chart. There can also be a case with especially Ketu and the moon, because Ketu is about poisons and the moon is about liquids. Could be poisonous liquids. Could be there's proneness to addictions and alcoholism in the marital partner. But it could be that she's spiritual. I don't know much about her at all, so I wouldn't like to guess on that one. You've also got a direct aspect from the Sun and Venus to the 7th ruler, and again, that's another sign that she's creative and artistic. But with the Sun, this is a sign of overbearing nature. So she may be quite difficult. Now, the 8th house is incredibly interesting because Mercury is here. And when Mercury is in the 8th house, it actually is quite happy here, as Mercury was the only god who could go into the underworld and come out of the underworld. So like Pluto, there is an underworld quality. So it feels quite comfortable in those Dastana houses like the 8th and 12th house. Mercury in the 8th can be great for the intelligence, because Mercury is another intelligence planet, and it's good for communication and psychology. There might be a real interest in psychology. But 8th house is about other people's money. So there could be money through losses, other people's money, insurances, or even divorce. There can be chronic problems with the lungs just due to the fact that Mercury is sitting in a Dastana, and even though it's happy there are disturbances it can make to the meaning of that planet. So there can be weaknesses with hands, arms, lungs, dual organs within the body, especially as Mars is debilitated in the 3rd, which is all about the lungs, the dual organs and the hands and the arms. So that's marrying up with other elements in the chart that there can be weaknesses in those areas. However, if you look at Mercury and look at its dispositing planet, it's Jupiter. They swap places. It's another Parivartana yoga. So this adds strength to those two planets, as well as two benefics aspecting each other. So their positive properties meet each other and further empower each other. So with the 8th ruler being in the 2nd, there can be problems with the use of bad language, but also the consumption of bad foods and things that are not necessarily good to put into our bodies. So I have heard some rumors that he has a problem with addiction. Is that true? Again, I can't see enough signs to really support that. But I would say that there is a possibility of the consumption of bad foods and bad language just because of this combination. Another thing to support potential addiction is that the moon is in Ashlesha. And Ashlesha is all about poisons that heal, and it can be sometimes linked to addiction. So there are two signs there that there could potentially be a problem. But other than that, I haven't seen much, and I wouldn't really like to speculate, but that is a couple of supporting factors to that. With Jupiter in the 2nd, this can give lots of money because Jupiter expands wherever it goes. So it can make him eat a lot as well. He may have quite a large appetite, but also there can be money made through investments because the 8th house is other people's money. As the ruler of the 8th is the 2nd, I have heard a lot of rumours about the potential of Zelenskyy embezzling the money that he is receiving as aid from Western countries. Now, with that combination, there is a possibility that that could be happening, but I wouldn't actually say that that was necessarily happening until maybe an event in 2024 when the planets that are involved in this are activated. And in 2024, he will be in the subdasha of Mercury. But one thing I would say about Mercury is that it does have a square aspect from Pluto, which can make him very, very powerful, especially with speech. And we know he's been delivering a lot of cultural kind of speeches. He's been going from country to country and using elements of those countries' history. Like he came to the UK and he was quoting Churchill, I think, and everybody was going, oh, he knows so much, he's so cultured, this, that, the other. So that's an element of that combination. But in defense of Zelenskyy, because Jupiter is so strong, I would actually say that that would lead to him showing signs more of being morally sound as opposed to corrupt. But with links between the 2nd and the 3rd, there could be corruptibility in communications. Jupiter rules the 11th house, and this forms a Dana yoga here, which is all about large sums of money, which can be exaggerated during dasha periods of Mercury and Jupiter. So within the next year, Zelenskyy is going to have a nodal inversion, and it can bring influential people in, but there may be a loss of joy during this time. K2 signifies loss. So when it passes over Pluto, there could be a loss of power. And this is going to be happening around about March 2024. And around the same time, Rahu will be aspecting his moon. And this can be difficult on his emotions, and it can expand his emotions. He may be feeling a lot of things during this time. Because the moon is the mind and the emotional state, and Rahu can be paranoia, there could be a sense of paranoia going on here. As he is still in the dasha of Moon and Saturn, this is going to activate the 3rd and 4th houses. And the 4th house is about endings, and the 3rd house is a minor dhisthana. So there are signs that things are not going to be all hunky-dory. Around about the same time, Jupiter is going to be aspecting natal Mercury, so this may trigger some money events, but can also be scandal as that 8th house is involved. Saturn is going to be in his 10th house for the next year, and it's in Aquarius, which is a good sign for Saturn. So it may have a positive effect, but it's going to be time for him to really take responsibility in his career and really think about what kind of impacts that he is having on the world. It's also a good time for leadership as well. And of course, the first round of the Ukrainian election is going to be taking place in March 2024. So this could be a sign that he is going to keep his leadership position, but there could also be some sort of disgrace, as it's not all showing to be positive. Uranus is in the 12th house, and it has been for quite a long time. But next year, it's going to be moving into his first house. So this is all about him, his persona, and his feelings and his body. So this, with Uranus being in that position, could make him prone to sudden changes, accidents, but it may also give him flashes of insights and new beliefs. Neptune has not long gone into his 11th house, which could make him a little bit more idealistic, but he could find that people and associates are also misleading and deceptive. So he needs to watch out in his circle of acquaintances, influential people, and also his close friends, as there could be deception from any of those points. Pluto is in his 9th house, and it's going to be there for the next 30 years. And this could bring a lot of powerful opportunities for travel, for higher education, but also for personal philosophies, beliefs, and links to religion as well. But there can be some problems with obsession in those areas, but the 9th house is also law, so there could be some kind of obsession with the law. I don't know how far he's going to go through remaining in politics, or whether he's going to return to the creative arts when he's done in his political career, or whether he's going to just be a politician now. Pluto is going to be traveling through his 9th house for the next 30 years. And this is going to give him great opportunities for travel, powerful opportunities for transformation, but it could be new discoveries with his beliefs and with philosophies as well. Another thing about Jupiter, which I forgot to say, it's in the 12th house from the moon, which is a Shakata yoga. And this can lead to fluctuating fortunes and a life of struggles. So whenever that Jupiter is activated, there can be problems there, and it can activate fluctuations in his fortune. But that isn't going to be activated by Jupiter until May 2025. But he will be in the dasha of Moon Mercury. And as I said, Mercury rules the 2nd house. So when that's activated, its rulership is going to be activated. So he could have problems in 2025 with that aspect. And in the following month, Mercury will be right next to Jupiter. So that could be an interesting time, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Thank you very much for watching my analysis on Volodymyr Zelenskyy. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. I will see you next week. Bye.